Hi, it's Kai and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a Chatty Get Ready With Me life update type of video because it's been a second since I've just sat down here and chatted with you guys. And I really like these types of videos. If I'm being honest, I feel like the Chatty Get Ready With Me era of YouTube or social media just in general has maybe gone past, but I just like sometimes hearing other people talk about their opinions and things that are just again going on in their life. Like this is more, I guess, of a little life update, especially since the last one that I posted, or last kind of chatty video, was more so about, like, it was 2 months ago, number one, or over 2 months ago at this point, and it was about me leaving my corporate job. So that is obviously a really big life change, and I will say that it has been a very, I won't even say difficult adjustment, but I would say more tumultuous. And I think it's partially because something that has been going on hand in hand with it is that a week before I left my job, even though I had told my psychiatrist at the time, like months prior, that I was going to be leaving my job, for some reason she decided to change my medication, and I have been seeing this psychiatrist for now about a year, or I haven't seen her since I left my job, honestly, but I have been seeing her at that point for about a year. So you know, not like the longest amount of time, especially for people who are medicated for their mental health issues or concerns. And I mean, I can do a video about all of my mental health concerns. I talked about it a little bit in my last, again, Chatty Get Ready With Me, because I was talking about part of the reason why I needed to leave the corporate environment, and it is just because as someone who has been diagnosed with, I guess I should say, generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety, OCD, possibly ADHD, what else? And PTSD. I, like, being in corporate literally kind of made me want to all the time. And the more that I just became myself, the more that I learned boundaries and therapy and just started enforcing those boundaries and started to actually feel worthy and like invest in my self-worth, like I said, that apparently makes me less likable, and makes me, even though I'm an amazing worker, I know I'm an amazing accountant, I'm very smart, very intelligent, like some people just don't vibe with who I am, especially like the corporate environment, because the corporate environment in general is just about basically not rocking the boat, like doing the least amount that you can to get by and not rock the boat, and I just can't do that as a person. I was actually talking about this with my sister earlier and yesterday, like because I have a twin sister. You guys know this, especially if you're over on TikTok. I'm trying to think about what eye look. I feel like I want to do something really neutral with a pop of color, which has been pretty much my standard look lately. So I think I'm going to use the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Volume 2, because this is one that, while it's not in my project pan, I would love, like I have really big pan on this, and I need to do a project pan update soon, but and I hit pan on this one as well. So I would love to, you know, utilize this a little bit more, even if it's not in my project pan. I really like hitting pan on things. Like I was saying, I guess became less likable, less manipulable, and all of those things that make some people just feel like you don't belong. And one of the things that has been really big about my personal development over the past few years has been being comfortable with who I am as a person, and and that's part of like unworking the PTSD, especially, is like me having all of these experiences that told me I am not this type of person, or I don't get to have X, Y, and Z, or you know, I don't know how to frame it exactly, but I feel like people who have dealt with these things know that like the first kind of step is unlearning that, like, I don't know. Anyway, going back to what the point of all of that was originally, is that my so I had told my psychiatrist that I was leaving my job like months in advance. In the year that I had been seeing her, I had been switched on 4 different medications at varying doses, so probably including like dosage changes, had really been on like double or even triple that, because each one I had like maybe 1 or 2, or not even 1, 2 or 3 dosage changes before we abandoned it. And just after, like, she changed it a week before I was leaving my job, which for obvious reasons, like waiting for health insurance to kick in, or like continuation of health insurance benefits, or seeing if I needed to, you know, go to other health insurance, things like that, was not really like a good decision. And after talking to my sister, again, my twin sister is a nurse practitioner. If you're over on the Tiki Tac app, then you have actually seen her. She's been featured in one of my videos recently, and I'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. She expressed some concern over the fact that my medication had been changed that much in a year's time. And that my dosages had been changing so much, on top of the fact that none of them have really done anything. And I can, again, go into a whole deeper video basically about each medication that I've been on, the dosages that I've been on, and how they did or didn't work. Honestly, the only one that made me feel even slightly more like a human was Wellbutrin, and then like that's an SNRI, and then when that wasn't helping with the focus issues that are potentially a part of my ADHD, you know, or potential ADHD, I guess I should say, since I haven't been formally diagnosed with it. But I think that we can assume if all of the SSRIs are not working, that, like, you know, and that's something that after talking it through again with my sister and my mom and just other people in my life, they've kind of been like, yeah, and I've even kind of been like, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I just feel as though like things aren't following. Like it doesn't make sense if I said that I had at least some improved symptoms on an SNRI to then switch me back to SSRIs that I had said that I was experiencing issues with. And the issues that I've been experiencing with those in particular is that even the smallest doses of them, or like the lower doses, literally make me feel like a zombie. They sedate me so much that I have to, like, even caffeine can't perk me up. I will drink like 2 Dr. Peppers. Like, I've started drinking Dr. Pepper and caffeine and coffee and stuff again, just because over the past almost 2.5 months that I have been on the current one that I'm on, which is Prozac, or fluoxetine, and I'm on a dose of, I think, 20 milligrams, which is which my psychiatrist told me that that was the absolute lowest dose, but the person that I'm currently dating is on a lower dose. Like, they were like, yeah, I take this medication if you need it, because I thought that, like, I had gone on a vacation with them. That's another thing, we'll get into it. But I thought that I had left my medication at home, and they were like, yeah, I am on like less than your dose, so this is how many you would take, because they're like really smart about health stuff, and you know, they're just really smart in general. But I was just like, oh, so this isn't the lowest dose. well, she told me it was the lowest dose, and especially if you've been over again on the Tiki Tac app, you know that I've talked a lot about my journey with like herpes and herpes education. That's actually the video that was with my twin sister more recently, her talking about her experience as a nurse practitioner with like diagnosing it and stuff. And it's one of those things that like made me, like, I sit here all the time and say like, just because a doctor says something doesn't mean that it's absolute truth, and that like herpes, especially the education around it, is so poor. Like certain doctors will be like, oh, if you have cold sores you don't need to disclose that, when like you can give cold sores to someone down below and now it's genital herpes. Because either way, that's all over again on the other app, but I think I might do like a Q&A over here. So if you're interested in that, definitely let me know, leave your questions. I'm an open book about it, because herpes is not something that you should feel ashamed about or feel like you have to like hide. Like the reason that people contract herpes is because of the stigma and people feeling like they have to hide it. Anyway, getting off my soapbox about that, like I talk about that stuff over there all the time, and yet even still sometimes in my personal life I'm just like, oh, the doctor said this, so it must be true. And so that kind of planted the seed of doubt in my mind as far as maybe the compatibility between me and the psychiatrist. But again, like talking to other people and going over how many times I've changed medication, how many different medications I've been on, the fact that we went from, like I said, Wellbutrin was making me not feel so drowsy and feel so out of it, that like there was a point, especially over the last few months, where I have been literally taking a nap every day, and not like a 20, 30, even 1 hour nap. I mean, I was basically sleeping in the middle of the day, like 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours each time. And on top of that, no matter whether I was taking it in the morning, at night, middle of the day, like I tried so many different rotations of taking the fluoxetine and all of them. And I'm generally like team take your medication, because like I said, there have been, like even with Prozac, the emotional regulation that I've been able to experience on it, great. But am I emotionally regulated because I am sedated, or am I emotionally regulated because I am actually working through my triggers, working through my traumas, and able, like the medication is taking me out of fight or flight mode? So yeah, that's where we're at. We went from that, from Wellbutrin, again, an SNRI that was actually making me feel like, oh, I have energy, I don't have to take these extensive naps in the middle of the day. But because it wasn't helping with the issues with focus, my doctor was like, oh, let's try something else. We went to the Prozac, and on, again, a 20 milligram dose, which is a relatively low dose, I have been feeling so sedated. And where was I? Oh, waking up in the middle of the night. No matter what time I took it, I was waking up at like 2 in the morning. And it wasn't like I could wake up and then go back to sleep. I was waking up at 2 in the morning, staying up until like 6 or 7, and then going back to sleep, and then not waking up, which actually happened to me today. For the first time since I self-managed like a lower, which I shouldn't say self-managed, because again, I know that I have privilege in having a family member, like a really close family member, who is in the medical field and can kind of like direct me through this, like managing my medication. But I decided to go on like a self-lowered dose, and again, I'm thinking about finding another psychiatrist, potentially someone who is like specialized in ADHD or just neurodivergence in general. Because even if medication overall, especially with the fact that like my life does look different. I don't need something that's going to keep me focused in a chair for, you know, hours and hours on in a way that is just very unnatural to my body, and to my brain, and unnatural to just the way that I work, you know what I'm saying? Like I literally read when I go on walks, because I'm just like, when I'm reading sitting down or being stationary, or where there is like no background noise or anything like that, it's harder for me to concentrate. So it's things like that. Like maybe I could start speaking about my actual experiences and having a practitioner who is trying to get to the bottom of those experiences and get a correct medication, or just a correct like course of action for me. Oh no, is my light about to go out? Please, no, don't do that. The crux of content creation is literally having like a million different lights. I have 3 different little like lights. Actually technically 4, but one of them is like one of the big old style like ring lights. What was I saying? Basically, I'm just trying to figure out what the best method of whatever is for me of managing my symptoms, whether it is anxiety, because I can definitely tell that with increasing my caffeine intake, my anxiety has gone back up. But it's like, if that's the only way that I could keep my eyes open, like, you know, I feel like so much of medicine, especially doctors who really just aren't interested in getting to the crux of your problems, but instead just kind of like, oh, here's some medication for that, let's try something different, and all of that, that it can sometimes like make you worse off. And not saying that I'm worse off, because I definitely think there's a lot of things that I needed medication to manage in the last year, but I'm just not sure that I need it like in the space that I'm currently at, or if it's being as helpful as it is harmful. So I have gone down to half the original dose, and literally the same day that I did that, I was able to sleep through the night for like the first time in months. So that kind of told me, okay, I think my body is agreeing with this change. And my body is not necessarily agreeing completely with this medication. So again, trying to figure out, like, do I need to see someone new, someone different, or, you know, maybe I'm just at the point where I can try to learn more like personal coping skills, because I will say, on top of always being tired, like there's also that inability to self-start, which is very not normal for me. But I feel like this video is becoming like that in-depth mental health video. So again, if you want to see something like that, I can make a separate Chatty Get Ready with me that is a little bit more cohesive than just, you know, me talking about life updates. But that is one of the life updates. Might as well kind of backtrack to one that came up during that whole discussion, which was a vacation with someone that I'm dating, which I have never gone. Do I have a cat hair? Yes, I think I got it. I'm pretty sure I did. I hope I did. So I have never really gone on a vacation. Like, I've gone on vacations with people that I'm dating, obviously, but it was usually like a year, at least 6 to 8 months to a year into us seeing each other, not only like a few months. So that definitely was a very different experience, but it was also like one of the best vacations that I've gone on. We went to Sunset Beach, which is a little bit north of Myrtle Beach and like North Myrtle Beach. It was so incredibly beautiful. And I don't know if I talked about this in the last Get Ready With Me. I feel like I did not. But if I did, then you guys just know that I'm like excited about this and that I want to talk about it again. So we went to the beach and it was just so beautiful, so calming. And this was literally my first week after leaving my corporate job. So it was like a really nice like way to kind of start. And I also was just kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna give myself some time, especially since I was working through all of the medication stuff. I'm gonna give myself some time to actually rest. And I talked about this again in the last Get Ready With Me. I hope it's not too repetitive here, but I have just always been like go, go, go in school, having a job, internship, into grad school, into full-time jobs. So I am allowing myself, at least these past few months that I've had, to kind of like breathe and be a human and chase, like, again, my creative interest as far as, you know, content creation, which I think, considering I've been having all of these issues with my mental health and barely being able to stay awake some days, that I'm doing a pretty darn good job at like balancing and still trying to post and be consistent and stuff like that, because it is not easy. Even today, like I said, today I'm feeling a little bit more mentally off than I have since I lowered my dose of the fluoxetine. And it's currently almost 3 p.m. or like 3 in the afternoon. And I was just like, it's okay that it's almost, you know, 3 in the afternoon. That doesn't mean that you can't still sit down and film something, still sit down and put on makeup and like feel good. Like your day isn't ended just because it is in the afternoon. I had to clear my memory card and I honestly don't really remember the last thing I was saying. So I know I was talking about going on a vacation with someone, but yeah, I went on a vacation with someone and it was very beautiful. Sunset Beach, North Myrtle Beach area. We went to the beach and also ate some great food, and it's like a very kind of like more chill coastal town, not as, I guess, like touristy. Like there's definitely tourists there obviously, but it, you know, it's not quite, I guess, as touristy as the Myrtle Beach area, which we also went to the Ripley's Aquarium in North Myrtle Beach, which you guys know I freaking love aquariums. They're like my favorite, you know, or one of my favorite things. I want to go to every aquarium in the United States. Or honestly in the world, but you know, we got to start small with just the US before conquering world aquariums. I love aquatic sea life. I am a Scorpio, so very obviously into all of that. And yeah, I'm just like, it was such a fun time. And we also, like, I feel like in general, obviously it's still early days with like dating someone new, but it wasn't like, there was, I guess it was like every other trip that I've been on, there's always been, I guess, some sort of pressure or pain point that has come up as we were there. And this is the one time where I felt like there was none of that. Like I could truly just enjoy myself, or I didn't have to worry about, like, I mean, not to, you know, call out any of my previous partners, but I know, like, even for a day trip once, my last partner, I had, they got us tickets to go to the Chattanooga or like the Tennessee Aquarium, and they got them for the wrong day. Like, just not having to be the detail-oriented one all the time, or the one who is keeping things together. it's really nice. It's a nice little change. But yeah, I have just been enjoying that. That's how like my first week went, and then I came back and was just kind of like, okay, I need to, which coincided a bit, especially over the last month, with, what is it? I think Venus was in Virgo, and then we also had Mercury retrograde going between Virgo and what is that, Leo. And I feel like, especially with it being in Virgo, I was just really trying to get my house. I hate how my camera sometimes has such a hard time autofocusing, and I'm sorry if that happens. I don't really know how to use like manual focus, and I feel like I move around a little too much to use manual focus as well. I have like an older camera, so I feel like at the time the autofocus worked really well, and it was like pretty top notch. Like this camera is at least 4 or 5 years old now. But I feel as though technology has gotten better, and now everyone's stuff is so crispy, and that's one of the things that makes me feel a little bit insecure about my content creation journey, or like especially making content on YouTube, is because I feel like my camera isn't as crispy, or my light's going out and all of that stuff. So yeah, that was a little bit of a, I guess, kind of content creation rant, which I have so many of them. Once I got back from the beach, that's when I was focused both on getting my apartment, like cleaning it, organizing it, and even still, it's been a very ongoing process. I'm still organizing things, putting up new, you know, postcards on my postcard wall and stuff like that, just to make my apartment feel more homey, because I am one of those people who sometimes has a hard time with like making their home feel like a home, or their apartment feel like a home, because with being in college and just how crazy rent prices are in the current economy, I was in a place where I was having to move every single year. So I just kind of got used to my places having no real character, or not really showing a lot of my personal character. Like even this little corner, I would have never put, you know, flowers back there. That is such a small thing, and I don't have anything else on my walls or anything like that, which kind of makes me feel a little like bland, and you should judge this corner up a little bit. But it's a process. Rome wasn't built in a day. But I definitely, with having to like move to a different place every year, whether it was like moving from a dorm when I was in college, a dorm, to like off-campus student housing, and then off-campus student housing to a regular apartment complex, and then switching areas and new neighborhoods and stuff like that, again in an attempt to keep rent prices reasonable. Especially for my budget, and this was when I was literally making accounting money. So like, if you think that any person with even like nice high, what do you call it, jobs, and that was another thing where I was like, I could leave my corporate job, or like, why not leave my job to pursue perfumery or creative pursuits, because if I am struggling with having this nice cushy job, or struggling financially, and I wouldn't say struggling, like obviously I'm taken care of, I have a place to live, I'm very blessed and grateful for all of that, but also like I still have a lot of anxiety around money, and am I, you know, making like enough money for an apartment, or like, oh, to live near where I work, I literally like really don't make enough money for that, you know, like all of those things were going through my mind. So like, why not be stressed out about money and not be stressed out about other things? Like just being honest, even though again, that's stress about money, and that's something that I feel like is an underlying like attitude that I need to work on just in general. But like I was stressed about those things financially, and then also stressed out about work and how people were treating me and how I was being perceived just being myself. And I just, I, like, at least now, like, I'm only really stressed about the financial portion, you know, or stressed. And again, I feel like that's just something that I need to personally, like, work through my relationship with money. And honestly, since I've been out of the corporate environment, I have been able to make smarter financial decisions. I haven't been eating out as much, or not even eating out as much, because I'm still going and eating out with friends or my sisters and things like that. But I'm not eating like DoorDash as much because I am so tired mentally and physically that I can't make food for myself, and I haven't eaten all day. In addition to the fact that if you have disordered eating patterns or like just issues with food in general, being in corporate, like, some people literally use like the not eating, like, oh, I was so busy that I couldn't eat lunch, like, as a badge of honor. And I realized, like, especially in the past few months, how much that warped my relationship with food, of being like, I'm too busy to properly nourish my body. And especially as someone who has had issues with disordered eating in the past, like, that has done damage to my gut. My GERD has been worse, and it's been better, or at least I've been able to focus on managing it, eating better foods, cooking food for myself. Like, those are just little lifestyle improvements like that have honestly been worth the, like, what am I gonna do? And of course I'm like contemplating, or there's that voice in my head that is just like, girl, like, what are you doing? Go back and get a corporate job, have stability, X, Y, and Z. But I'm just like, how much of that stability was just fake? Like, I feel like a lot of the stability of a 9-to-5, and maybe this is just, again, the like creative in me talking, because for some reason in capitalism, unless you strike it rich, there is this thing, and even when you do strike it rich, there's this thing where if you're not a nepo baby or don't have connections automatically, or are in a place where you already start out with certain advantages, that you have to like have that struggling creative era, when in reality, like, we shouldn't have to have that. But again, that's a whole, I feel like my brain is just going everywhere with this at this point, but that's a whole other thing in general. But like I said, I've been able to focus more on my relationship with food, my relationship with money. I've been able, instead of just being like, okay, I'm gonna go to just one grocery store and either not get all of the groceries for the dietary needs that I have, or I think this light is about to die too, but not getting all of the dietary needs, or having to go to a store where I can get everything that I want for my dietary needs and restrictions, but it's gonna cost me 2 to 3 times more. Now I can go to different stores. Like, if I want to save on, what is that called? Save on laundry products, I can go to multiple different stores to see which one has like promotions that week. And even though, again, less money is coming in, less money is also going out, because I'm just making more conscious decisions. So I didn't mean for this to, well, I guess it kind of was like a post-corporate update and like things that have changed in my life, I need to go film a TikTok for my lips, so we'll just cut it off there. And if there's any other things that you guys want to talk about or want me to talk about with my life, things that have come up in this video, let me know. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed sitting here and chatting with me, and I hope you're having a safe and healthy day wherever you are when you're watching this. And I will talk to you guys in the next one once I catch my breath, I guess, because I cannot breathe and I need some Dr. Pepper strawberries and cream.